Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this year's Dr. Martin Luther King Keynote Address. My name is Graciela Nzo. I'm an international student and an entering freshman at Bellevue College, majoring in business analysis and technology, and I will be your host for today. The organizing committee is more than delighted that you're here and would thus like not only to thank you for coming today, but also to give a warm welcome to our sponsors for this week's event. I'd like to name the President's Office, Office of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, Office of Student Engagement, Bellevue College Foundation, Multicultural Services, Disability Resource Center, and the Science and Math Institute. Please let's give a round of applause to all of us for our participation. We are now looking forward to hearing more from our speakers, artists Hiawatha and Veronica, owners of the Wonder of Women Gallery located in Pacific Place in downtown Seattle. The Wonder of Women Gallery is a cultural institution that centers Black stories and culture. As some of you may know, every year the Bellevue College community gathers to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy and life. And to talk a little bit more about Dr. King's message, please let's give a warm welcome to our interim president, Governor Gabriel Luke.
Well, thank you very much, Graciela, for the introduction and serving as our MC for today's event. It's really great to see so many people here. Welcome. And know that this session is being broadcast, being recorded, and being streamed live as well. Today we gather to honor the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I'm so excited to hear and learn from our keynote speakers, Hiawatha D. and Veronica Viri, as we explore rebuilding our communities post-pandemic. Dr. King once said, quote, "Our goal is to create a beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives," end quote. So as we emerge from the impact of COVID-19, we have a unique opportunity to reflect on the changes we need to make individually and collectively to bring this goal to fruition. How can we refresh, renew, and rebuild the connective social fabric that binds us all? What actions can we take today and moving forward to make our society more equitable for all and to finally deliver on the promise of a free and just society? Dr. King's quote reminds us that this work, the qualitative change in our souls and the quantitative change in our lives, is both internal and external. Granted, it's not easy right now, especially given the divisive rhetoric and the violence that streams into our consciousness every single day. But you know, when you think about it, it was perhaps even more divisive and even more violent in the days of Dr. King and all the civil rights leaders. But Dr. King gave us a wealth of inspiration to hold on to in these challenging times. He gave us an example to follow and a vision to hold close to our hearts. And I can't think of a better way to honor his legacy than by engaging in the work today. Before we begin, I'd also like to, as Graciela said, give a great big thanks to all the different organizations that have helped make today's event possible. But without further ado, let's get on with the program. And to introduce and kick off our program, I'd like to introduce our Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Consuelo Greer. But thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Hello, 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 good people. It is wonderful to see you all and to be in community, which we just don't get to do as often anymore. It's my great honor to introduce Hiawatha D. and Veronica Viri to Bellevue College. Veronica Viri is a visionary, a healer, a community convener. She is the founder of Wonder of Women International and the nation's newest cultural destination experience, the WOW Gallery. She set the vision for Dear Sister, I See You, a healing art exhibition that unapologetically centers Black women, Black love, and the Black community in the heart of downtown Seattle's economic corridor in the Pacific Place Mall. If you haven't been yet, I highly suggest that you put it on your priority list. A trip to the WOW Gallery is a whole event, even if you go by yourself. Veronica Very inspires and encourages the healing of systematic and racial trauma in Black people by using an ancestral guided framework of storytelling, which builds community and spaces for reflection, renewal, restoration, and rejuvenation. She is a force of nature. And her commitment to justice and healing for the Black community is nothing short of incredible. Veronica Very co-created and designed the WOW Gallery and the Dear Sister, I See You Healing Art Exhibition featuring Hiawatha D's paintings amplifying Black women, beauty, and power. I have been lucky to call her a friend and a mentor for more years than I can count at this point. Her love for the community is unparalleled, and I don't say that lightly. It is by way of Veronica that I and many others have had the fortune of being introduced to Hiawatha D, another amazing friend, mentor, and community healer. Hiawatha D is a Seattle native and an artist who uses paintings, ceramics, and wood carvings to disrupt the narratives of trauma that typically depict Black lives. His bold and vibrant colors radically celebrate Black power, healing, and hope in the world. He says that his body of work unapologetically offers the glory in our courageous and amazing story. And boy, do we need that. Born during the Civil Rights Movement and inspired by the Harlem Renaissance artist, Hiawatha D is deeply committed to Black culture globally. He believes that now, when the country is so divided, his work has the power to heal, inspire, and unite. I agree. In 2017, Hiawatha began his iconic Black Women series, which has culminated in 50 extraordinary paintings ranging from Sojourner Truth and Kamala Harris. At this point, there might even be more than 50. Every time I turn around, there is a new person being inducted into this amazing collection. The paintings are his homage to the courage and beauty of Black women. In case you haven't caught on, Hiawatha D is married to Veronica Very, with whom he creates healing exhibitions and shares ancestral healing work. I am super, super excited for all of you who are both in attendance in this room, as well as all of you who are joining us virtually. People of Bellevue College, please join me in welcoming Veronica Very and Hiawatha D.
Troy. Ask Troy to play the video.
Okay, can you play the video, please?
Welcome to WOW Gallery. Welcome home. Ashe? Now we're gonna have an experience together, and I just want y'all to start getting into it, like find your hits or something.
WOW Gallery isn't just a gallery. It's a healing art exhibition experience. It is a cultural destination that actually centers the work of Wonder of Women.
Somebody say Ashe for the queens. For our queens to step into the power of their Black love. So that when they
Wonder of Women is a Black love story. What I was called to create is sacred space that is framed with the energetic intentions of love, light, liberation, and legacy. So the testimonials, the various stories, they're all told in the framework of love, light, liberation, and legacy. Love because you gotta love yourself before you love anyone else. Light is the sacred space that allows us to stand in our truth. Liberation. Liberated for what? Liberated to remember our purpose, our passion, our co-creation power, who we are as a people, and how that informs us. If we lovingly escort and invite people to be in those energetic intentions of love, light, and liberation, then we are positioned to leave a legacy. In those energies, we find opportunity for transformation, for healing, for education, for empowerment, elevation, and co-creation.
Love, light, liberation, and legacy are kind of like essential tools that we need as people for everyday life to be successful and to be successful on our own terms. These are essential tools, and it's simple. Everyone can achieve it, but it has to come from you. And so this love, light, and liberation that you see here is from Veronica and myself, our expression, our work that we are called to do and bring to society, to the community.
Come on now.
My name, oh, my name on Sarah.
So the healing suites are essential to this space because this is not just a gallery, this is a healing arts gallery.
So the Healing Suites provides space and place and personal sanctuary for people to learn very simple ways in which they can incorporate ancestral and cultural, powerful pathways for healing and putting healing in rotation in your life to disrupt trauma. So the Healing Suites really is what centers this entire space, the arts included. And it centers this entire space because it centers the work that we've been doing in Wonder of Women. We've now been to over 44 cities across the nation and to South Africa 4 times, creating sacred spaces for Black women and girls to find their voice, stand in their truth, and tell their story, and centering each of those spaces in the power of Black love.
What do they call me? My name is Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the leadership here at Bellevue College, to all of the persons who supported and found it necessary and an urgent imperative to create this space for us to actually center ourselves in community to discuss what it looks like to rebuild community post-pandemic. One of the first things we gotta be considerate of is the fact that in order to rebuild anything, in order to do anything, the first prerequisite is that you show up. So I want to applaud every single person who is in this space for showing up. Would you please give yourselves a hand? So while he's already been introduced, I want to say that I am with the absolute blessed privilege to be able to have a love-making experience in the middle of the pandemic. While outside our window, we could hear people protesting Black Lives Matter in a little small loft in downtown Seattle. We will be able to share the way in which Hiawatha and I, through and by the power of love, were able to create a different kind of protest. We do believe that protesting is critical. It is important. It is necessary. As a matter of fact, this country was founded upon the principles of freedom and free speech and the right to protest, as Martin Luther King talks about. The right to protest, the right to find your voice, the right to stand in your truth, and the right to tell your story. Your story is critical. It is important. It is necessary. And your story cannot be important, critical, and necessary if my story isn't critical and important and necessary. So in the middle of the pandemic, we had an opportunity to have a continuation of this lovemaking experience whereby we have created a historic body of work that radically inserts the need for healing in this conversation of race relations and social justice. Because if we do not heal, and if we do not find a way to have lovemaking experiences that are not necessarily romantic or sexual, but a lovemaking experience and healing and education and liberation and inspiration and finding our way back to our dream, if we don't have that, then all that we are doing to so-called address the needs that require us to protest is done in vain. And so, Hiawatha D, born and raised here in Seattle, just like myself, born in and raised in West Seattle, on the other side of the bridge, from Rainier Valley, where I was raised, has created a historic body of work that now sits on the same corner where protesters were standing and looking down the barrel of a gun, and where there was tear gas and glass. On that same corner, y'all, there is now a historic body of work that unapologetically centers the most vulnerable in our society, the oppressed of the oppressed. Malcolm X said, the most disrespected human is the Black woman. And so we unapologetically center this conversation that not just calls for Black people to come, but calls for all peoples to come and be in galleries that are centered and framed in the framework of Wonder of Women, which is love, light, liberation, and legacy. Hiawatha D.
Good afternoon, everybody. First and foremost, always, it is my duty to respect and pay homage to my Black queen wife, Veronica Very. She is so critical to us in this area, actually in the nation, but especially to me.
Testing.
Especially to me, when we met, not too long after we met, she helped me remember my purpose and my power. So together, we have created this amazing space, this art that deals with our healing, this place that invites everyone to come in, sit down, and breathe. The Wild Gallery and the work that we do is needed. She helped me understand the importance of my artwork, the importance to share and to continue to share, to continue to paint. Like Consuela said, it was 50 pieces. Now I'm at about 65 Black women that I've painted. My goal is, and for some of you might not think that's a lot, but for a lot of artists, we might do about 20 or 30 pieces and we call ourselves done. For me to paint a total of about 75 pieces in the last 3 years is amazing. It's epic, it's revolutionary, it's a protest, but it's also prophetic, right? The pieces in this collection was from a vision, Veronica's vision. She planted that seed when she asked me the question, when she first found out I painted, have I ever painted a collection dedicated to Black women? At the time, that was 2016, at the time, the answer was no. But I didn't tell her no. What I told her was I paint Black people all the time. And she quickly said, "That's not what I asked you." So after we continued to work together, I would say about a year and a half later, it finally dawned on me it was my time to take what I had, my power, my passion, and make a statement about black women. Because I realized without black women, without a black woman, I wouldn't be here, surely. Most of us would not be here. And all the work that we're talking about with Martin Luther King, 85% of the people doing the work in the background were black women. And nobody talks about that. All the movements that we've had in this country, about 85% of the people doing the work, even today, are black women. And nobody's talking about their power, their brilliance, right? Their work, right? And I think and I thought we need to highlight black women, so we did that. And the reason why I know it's the right thing to do, because everyone who comes into that gallery, everyone who is exposed to these works of art are emotionally affected. They're connected. They can see themselves, right? And they want to engage. They want to talk to each other. They can sit down and breathe and relax and remember who they are. So I just want to thank everyone who's here today, but I also want to thank everyone who was a part of helping us create this wonderful space. And I also know this, as artists, right, it is our duty to reflect and talk about what's currently going on, right? And so our work, Veronica and I, work is about making sure that we know our power. We know our brilliance, right? We know that we are more than just descendants of slaves. We were here before Columbus. And if you don't understand that you are more and your ancestry is more than just slaves, you can't be more than a slave. So with that, let's talk about building and rebuilding communities post-pandemic.
Say, I have the power. I get to say.
I get to say.
Say, I have the power. I get to say. When we remember to remember our power, we remember to remember the fact that we actually get to say. Too often, many of us don't activate our power because we don't lean into or we are looking outside of ourselves to find our power. We're looking outside of ourselves to find validation and recognition. We're looking outside of ourselves for someone to say that we can, when already within ourselves the ability to say, to do, and to become, and to be is already inside of me. Say, I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say.
I get to say.
So in this journey whereby we are going to share women's stories, black women's stories, I want you to begin to remember your power. Okay? We are rebuilding communities, but if we don't realize we have the power and we don't realize that we get to say, then we place that power in someone else's hands. And Martin Luther King was all about helping everyone remember their power, their dreams, their passion, their purpose, their destiny. Say, I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say. Okay. So if you have the power, you got to embrace it. Okay? You got to embrace it. So we're going to talk about three. I love the fact that President Locke talked about Martin Luther King's, how he pointed to qualitative soul. You know, how critical it was. Martin Luther King felt that we needed to be with the qualitative soul. I feel that is important for us to address this urgent imperative of healing. And so Hiawatha are going to talk about 3 energetic intentions that help us to get back to the soul and remembering to remember our power.
So those 3 elements, and she said it before, those 3 elements are love, light, and liberation. And it's so simple, but it's difficult. But you have to love, because you got to love yourself before you can love anyone else, right? And once you start to see and love, then you'll see the light turn on. And once that light turns on, you can be free. You can start to liberate yourself. So what is community? A group of people with diverse characteristics who are linked by social ties, share common perspectives, and engage in joint action in geographical locations or settings.
So Bellevue College is a community.
That's right.
And it's critical for us to remember that we have the power we get to say, and everything we're saying is what we're creating. And everything that we're saying is the culture that we're creating. Bellevue College is a community. And so then therefore, if we have the power we get to say, then we get to say the kind of community that we will be. But if we don't remember that everything that we're saying is what we're creating, and everything that we're creating is creating a culture, then we don't understand the contribution that we're making, and we take out our fingers and we begin to point at someone else. So this principle called love in community, right? It is critical for us to understand that the energy that we bring into the space helps to create the energy that people experience. So we want you to embrace community, but you got to understand what community is. If you're showing up to it, right, then you are helping to create it. Say, I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say. And if I get to say, and if I get to say,
And if I get to say,
then what am I saying?
what am I saying?
Okay. Embrace love.
So Coretta Scott King, hopefully everyone knows this was Dr. King's wife, lovely wife, who stood by his side, raised their 4 children. But also, what's more important for me, well, actually for everyone, after King was taken from us, after he was murdered, she continued to do the work. I don't know how much I can stress that, but she was steadfast in making sure that her husband did not die in vain, and that the work that he did, well, actually they did as a couple, was going to be recognized and honored.
What is the quote?
The quote is, most people can't deal with beauty, but indulge heavily in fantasy and fear, which is the opposite of love. When fears rushed in, I learned how to hear my heart racing, but refuse to allow my feelings to sway me.
Okay. So most people can't deal with reality, but indulge heavily in fantasy and fear.
Yes.
When fear rushed in, I learned how to hear my heart racing, but refuse to allow my feelings to sway me. Say, I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say.
I get to say.
Your feelings are divine intelligence. As it relates to love, if you are feeling a particular kind of way, understanding, learning how to channel the energy of your feelings is critical for you to show up in community and to rebuild it with an energy that does not create toxicity. Okay? Fear is the opposite of love. And fear will paralyze you from activating your power, okay? So if something is happening and divine intelligence is speaking, then one ought to listen to what one's feelings is actually saying, okay? Let me give you an example. If you have a root canal, has anybody ever had a root canal? Oh, that thing is something else. It is painful, right? But what if you didn't have the feeling of pain to inform you that something was going on? If you didn't have the feeling of pain, then you wouldn't have the intelligence that you needed to address a matter that could actually take you out. People have actually died from infections in their teeth, okay? So divine intelligence, when it comes, Coretta Scott King said, I didn't allow it to sway me, right? So if you're feeling a particular kind of way, then there might be something that you need to say. There might be something that you need to do, right? So not just something that's for others, but something that is for you. Say, I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say.
I get to say.
Okay, so your feelings are divine intelligence. Don't let them sway you. Let them move you to stand in the wholeness of your truth.
So another great African-American woman is Ruby Bridges. Now, her story goes, she was only 6 years old when she integrated into the school. And because of racism, white supremacy, people did not like that choice. They did not want her to go to that school. So they called her names, spit at her, death threats. But with the support of her community, her mom and father, she held her head up high, and she walked past all those crowds into the school, where she went to class by herself for an entire year. So if that's not power and being brave and knowing that there was something greater than her, I don't know what is. Her quote is, "Racism is a grown-up disease, and we must stop using our children to spread it."
Say, I have the power. I get to say. Everything I'm saying is what I'm creating. Everything I see outside of myself is a reflection of what I've been saying. All right. So therefore, everything that you are, if your words have power, they create. And if they are creating, they are transferring energy in collective community space. So therefore, we have to be intentional about our words. And if our words are not lining up with who it is that we say that we are or want to be, then we must change our words so that we can see what we want to see. Okay? So everything we are saying is what we're creating. And Ruby said, it's a grown-up disease that adults are transferring through children who become adults, right? And so therefore, we have to be thoughtful about telling a different story, about reframing, redirecting energy. The energy of our words is creating. And everything that we're saying is what we are transferring, okay? That's how we create and build community. That's how we create and build present and future generations. So we have to be mindful and thoughtful about what it is that we want to see.
So me, as the creator of this art piece, I decided to show her in her power, show her inside the school where she was by herself, but walking tall and strong, instead of showing her outside with all the crowds of hate and despair. Ruby Bridges, powerful. So Adam A. Collins, age 14, Cynthia Wesley, age 14, Carol Robertson, age 14, and Denise McNair, age 11. These were the 4 little girls that were in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, September 15th, 1963. Again, this piece is, I think, well, I know it's the most powerful piece in the entire collection. It was recently acquired by Seattle University because it speaks to a lot of people. It speaks to the fact that so many of us were taken way too early, and we need to be thankful for those of us who were able to grow up and go to school, start their careers, have families. But this is, like I say, it's a Christian nation. They were going to a Christian church, and they were killed in the Christian church. So a powerful piece. an emotional piece. It was the hardest piece for me to paint because of the subject matter. But I'm glad I was able to make a great presentation.
So imagine, I want you to imagine, now we're in our apartment where people are outside protesting Black Lives Matter, and every now and then I'd get up and go out and join them. But I want you to know that this is the power of, when I say what I'm saying, I really mean what I'm saying. I have the power, I get to say everything I'm saying is what I'm creating. When he finished creating this piece, we received a call for me to speak in Birmingham, Alabama. So that Friday he finished the piece, and that Sunday we were sitting in that same church without plan. Everything you're saying is what you're creating.
That's right.
And we literally created the opportunity by painting this story for us to be in that church that very Sunday morning.
So just another piece about the four little girls. The sister of Denise McNair, we were fortunate enough to meet her, and she came to our gallery and talked about what happened. And even though this happened in 1963, she said their community is still dealing with the aftermath of these four little girls being taken from them. Their mother just passed last year with a broken heart. But community, like I said, came together, and they've been working with them for the last, 45, 50 years. So it's community, and rebuilding community is really important.
See, I have the power. I get to say.
Nina Simone, brilliant artist, musician, jazz musician. She started off as a concert pianist, about 9 years old, genius, but because she was dark-skinned and considered ugly, she was not given the opportunities of other people who had her talent. So she started using her music to sing positive messages about, the civil rights movement. One of her songs is Mississippi, Mississippi Goddamn. And she's talking about the lynchings, right? So if you don't know, after Reconstruction, that's when the lynchings really started. Over 2,000, it was over 5 lynchings a week. And I think about 2,000 lynchings in the first 10 years after Reconstruction. But Nina Simone and other artists, like you said, it's our duty to reflect what's going on at that time. She was one who did that in the 60s. And her quote is, "It's an artist's duty to reflect the times." And that's so true.
Embrace light. So we talked about embracing love, and we got to talk about embracing light. So one of the things that makes it really difficult for us to move the needle as it relates to the reasons to which we find the need to protest and make our voices heard and make them heard differently. One of the reasons that we have a difficult time moving the needle is not only because we don't want to heal, because we don't want to feel, we cannot heal. It's because we have a difficult time standing in truth, being in truth, being in truth. Say, I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say.
I get to say.
Everything I'm saying is what I'm creating. So therefore, if you don't stand in your truth, okay? If you don't stand in your truth, if you're standing in someone else's truth, if someone else has the power to tell your story, then someone else actually owns you. You may not be on a plantation, right? You may not be on a plantation, but you may be on a spiritual plantation if you are not standing in your truth. And the light represents truth. And we need to understand that it's okay to have the light come on. As a matter of fact, it's critical and necessary for us to have the light come on. We have day and we have night, right? But very often, as if someone was turning the light on and you've been in the dark for a minute, it's a little uncomfortable to feel that light coming into your eyes. But if the light is not able to come on, then we cannot see what we need to see so that we can address what we need to address and deal with what we need to deal with. So we need to learn how to embrace the light as it relates to rebuilding communities. We got to tell the truth about what we see. That root canal I talked about, there's a nerve down there that needs to come out, right? And if the pain is just a signal that something is wrong, but there's a nerve down there that is infected that can take your life. And if you don't have the light, if it doesn't come on, you don't get a chance to see what you need to see so you can address and become who you need to be. Say, I have the power. I get to say. I have the power. I get to say. We got to embrace the light. We got to embrace the truth. It's only the truth that's going to make us free. So we can run around talking about freedom all day long, but if we're not dealing with and being uncomfortable enough so that we can get comfortable and get free, then what kind of society and what kind of community will we actually be?
Okay. Serena Williams. Her quote is, her quote, "The day I stop fighting for equality and for people that look like me or that look like you will be the day I'm in my grave."
So the light came on for Serena. You guys know her story. And if you don't, you got to know that she had been talked about like someone that was, I don't even want to call what she's been talked about like. She's been ostracized. You heard Hiawatha talk about Nina Simone and how she was shunned because her skin was dark. Well, Serena was shunned for so much. She and Venus shunned for so much in spaces and places that were at the upper echelons of spaces that did not welcome and embrace people who looked like her. And in the midst of all of that, even in the midst of all of what she had to deal with and experience, she walked into the light of her truth. She stood in her truth and looked at the accomplishments that she has made. So I wanted to put Serena in this piece because I wanted to be very intentional about speaking directly to anyone who feels that they are not enough. Whoever feels that their self-worth is being attacked. Whoever feels so terribly uncomfortable in spaces that do not accept and embrace you in the light. I want to encourage you to stand in your truth. I want to encourage you to remember your power, because there is a direct gift that is inextricably tied to the power of your truth. Say, I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say.
I get to say.
I will not allow fear to paralyze me. Serena didn't allow it, and neither should you. We can rebuild community when we stand in the light of our truth. And the truth, I promise you, it only wants to make you free.
Angela Davis, Black Panther activist, just a really intelligent young lady who's still doing the work. Her work today is about prisoners who are being released back into the community and making sure that they have resources and just understand their rights moving forward as a newly resubmitted citizen.
I don't know if you guys know this or not, but our gallery is actually in a former Victoria's Secret. And ain't that something? And it's 11,000 square feet of space. And it happens to be the place in which my late daughter that I lost in 2017 held her first job. So I want you to understand and know, I didn't know that they use the prison industrial complex to make their panties and bras. So the point that I want to make with that is when I say I have the power, I get to say, when we say that it is critical and our duty as artists to reflect the times, when we say that there is power in standing in your truth, and when you tap into that power, you get a chance to change the story. You get a chance to tell a different story. The place in which where people used to, change and go into their most intimate place and space to find a bra that would fit are now healing suites. Healing suites for people to go in and have an immersive, personal experience with these simple healing pathways that you could incorporate into your life. So we get to reframe, we get to redirect, and we get to tell a different story. Because I have the power.
I have the power.
I get to say. Okay.
Nicole Hannah-Jones. I don't know if everybody is aware of the 1619 Project, which she released, I think it was around 2016. But there was so much, and it's just Black history, things that we didn't necessarily learn in school. She won a Pulitzer Prize for this brilliant work. It was in the Seattle Times, but she had so much pushback from the University of North Carolina, where she was a professor at, and other people around the country about how she was, spreading these lies and just awful. But anyway, and then her university did not want to give her tenure because of this so-called 1619 Project. Well, anyway, she persevered. She moved past that, and she decided that the University of North Carolina was not for her. So she took a position and gained tenure at Howard University, where she continues doing her work. And okay, so, and I'm going to just say her quote. This is our national truth. America would not be America without the wealth from Black labor, without Black striving, without Black ingenuity, Black resistance. I think that's true. One of the things that I know as I read and learn and do the work that we do, the greatest story ever told is the Black story. We have been here for over 400 years, and we are still coming to the top. In every industry that pushes us back, somebody is always persevering and putting their head down and doing the work and achieving and achieving. And it's our duty, well, my duty and Veronica's duty, is to highlight these people, in our case, it's women. Without women, without Black women, none of us would be here today.
So, I have the power.
I have power.
I get to say. Nicole Hannah-Jones actually she won a Pulitzer Prize for this powerful 1619 Project. And we do encourage you to get a copy of that book. So we're going to end this presentation with this point. Love, because you got to love yourself before you love anyone else. If you are going to rebuild community, you must do it with love. If you're not doing it with love, then the space and place, the community to which you are showing up to, it will be compromised by toxic fear, the toxicity of fear. So remember that you have the power, you get to say. And when the light comes on, don't run from it. It doesn't come to shame you or blame you or frighten you or reject you. It comes to reveal to you and expose to you areas and opportunities that are within you. And if you pair the powerful energies of love and light, you have an opportunity to remember your purpose and your power and be liberated to activate it in the earth, to make a difference at such a time as this, because we're all artists. And if we're going to rebuild community, we have to remember our power. Thank you so much. My name is Veronica Berry.
My name is Hiawatha D.
Hiawatha D.